episodes are a half hour, but still, I'm proud of myself, even if nobody else is.
Yeah, I caught up to. Curry says, "What? Still amazing." So the so we really do have to figure out what Manway's seeing in the vision,
right?
Because I don't think that's been discussed either.
Well, he's hearing. That's all that matters, right?
Well, what they were trying to avoid, he's hearing the music. They were trying to avoid Iluvatar giving him direct instructions, so it's not like something out of Gabriel over the White House, which, if you haven't watched it, it's a really old movie made prior to World War II, and it is Nazi propaganda in mainstream movie making, and it's terrifying.
The old Disney cartoons.
No, this was an actual live action movie, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt loved it.
Nice. Well, of course he did.
So, the president who was almost king.
So you were thinking during, we need to figure out what Manway is seeing in his vision, but whatever he's seeing during that, Varda is
making the stars, and I would like to Professor Olsen says, we don't want to see Varda coming back for the 4,038th time, but what we can do is show little moments of her, scooping up the liquid, and then another shot of her walking up to Nequatil and releasing a star into the heavens. And a few of these things, not the same shot every time, obviously, but her at different stages of the star making.
Right. And process. I was seeing specifically with this scene is that you were thinking of the parallels between Manway and Varda. I was thinking of the parallels between what Varda is doing and what Melkor is doing when I picture this scene. And so I was thinking, while Varda is kindling the stars, and this doesn't go against what you're saying. Actually, it might work really well with what you're saying. But while Varda is kindling the stars, we see Melkor sitting in his palace, and he, it's nighttime, and he walks out onto his balcony, and he looks up, and he sees the stars, and he immediately knows. Okay.
Yeah.
And so while Manway is getting this vision that's ultimately going to lead him to we're going to war, Melkor is seeing the kindling of the stars and is going, hey, they're going to go to war, and I need to prepare.
Yeah. Karita says, I think it's a good idea to cut between Manday's vision and what Varda is doing, because either one of those things would be a bit awkward and potentially silly on their own in long stretches. That's partially my reasoning behind it, and I think if we're intercutting between these three things now, that makes it even better. Karita says we're going to need some amazing music and very creative camera angles to make this dramatic. It could be super cool. I agree, and that's kind of really. It's going to really showcase the music, which is Varda's kindling of the stars. It's gonna bring back the themes of the Ainulindale, and we're also going to have Melkor's theme. So it's going to sound like the third theme, I think, of
which it should. That's the war to begin all wars. It's
right.
Yeah.
Korea says one is very word based and one is very visual based, so it's a nice pairing. Yeah. So, all that said, what do we do with the frame of this episode again? Is there any voice of God thing happening? I forget. They were specifically saying they really wanted to avoid that because they didn't want Manway to be getting instructions here. They want the music they want him to re-experience the music, and then he realizes this is the right thing to do.
I think we can still have some voice from Iluvatar, though. First of all, it'd be a sad waste of the amazing Ray Fiennes, and second of all, thinking to Star Wars: The Force Awakens, where Rey has that vision, and we hear Sir Alec Guinness, and we hear Ewan McGregor, and we hear all these different people speaking to her, and we're not really sure what they're saying, but we know that they're there with her through the Force. If we're just hearing even like the whispers of Iluvatar through the music, he's not directing. He's just Manwë knows he's there. We know he's there as the audience. Yeah. And his presence is made known.
Yeah. Karita says, I think so too. Good stuff, not a long speech, but something. Maybe something out of the bit that he says to Melkor, perhaps. Because Manwë's fear is that Melkor, if they go to war with Melkor at all, Melkor is winning. Harmony is lost. More or less permanently. And I think that if we hear the bit where Iluvatar is saying that nothing Melkor does is going to escape Iluvatar's plan, like everything he does gets woven right back into the music, and that's what's happening here. Even though something destructive is going to have to happen, it doesn't mean that Manwë is departing from Iluvatar's plan. Karita says, an echo of what he has already said, that could work. It would nicely avoid putting words into Eru's mouth that Tolkien didn't write himself. Yeah, that's again something I'm trying to avoid. I've made it very clear that I'm not comfortable writing, putting words into the mouth of Tolkien's idea of God.
So what is he saying?
I'll tell you.
Kind of. You're meeting me at least. Sorry, I'm talking to Karita.
I want you to know something. You want to hear something crazy? Karita was on camera. She's been on camera twice, but once she was on only for like a couple of minutes.
Yeah,
and we had actual like viewers, like other people who were watching, and as soon as she went off camera, 3 of them disappeared. That's all I'm saying.
Her people. She has her people.
Apparently.
Like Varda. And when she left, her people left. That makes sense. I understand.
Okay. Where did it go? But Karita says, weird how that happened. I'll get my camera sorted out someday. I think I'm really grateful for my internet connection here because I've had so few problems with it. I'm really rather shocked. Listen. Here in the Quinta, I don't want that. Quinta Linde. Okay. Okay, so no, that's him speaking to Ulmo. When does he speak to Melkor? Aha, yes. No, I keep going to the same page. Iluvatar spoke, and he said, mighty are the Ainur, and mightiest among them is Melkor. But that he may know, and all of the Ainur, that I am Iluvatar. Those things that ye have sung, I will show them forth, and ye may see that what ye have done. And thou, Melkor, shalt see that no theme, and these are the words I think, no theme may be played that hath not its uttermost source in me, nor can any alter the music in my despite. For he that attempteth this shall prove but mine instrument in the devising things more wonderful, which he himself hath not imagined. I think that's what he should hear. Maybe not all of that, but
right.
That's the sentiment.
Or we record all of it and we just kind of fade it. and
Yes,
when
yeah.
we need to. Yeah, it's all sorts of movie trickery that we can do with that.
Yes, of course. But if he's hearing that, and because Varda already knows what's going to happen, in typical Tolkien fashion, his wife knows exactly what needs to happen anyway, even though he hasn't realized it yet. So she's busy kindling the stars. Is Melkor just stewing, or is there something that he's doing at this point? Or are we just showing him in Autumno?
So, what was he doing last episode, Melkor?
Melkor in the last episode didn't do a whole lot. The one time that we see him extensively, he gives. In the last episode we didn't see him at all. In episode 11.
So what we need to figure out is what has he been doing since the last time we saw him?
Mm-hmm. Well, he needs to have been expanding his army of monsters and mayhem.
Right.
The Mire that followed him could be starting to take on their villainous forms.
Have we seen Autumno yet?
We've definitely seen Autumno several times.
Okay.
Manway's been there, but we haven't seen the pits of Autumno really.
Okay. Right.
So far as far as we know, Autumno is just this massive palace that Melkor has built for himself.
Right.
And the wise ones who follow him. Karita says he's obsessed with light, so I can imagine him watching the stars light up, which isn't much action, I grant you. Well, I mean, it doesn't need to be. This is probably a 5-minute sequence, somewhere along those lines. 5, maybe a little longer, 5 to 10 minutes.
Right. 15 if we go 2 hours.
Yeah. Well, I really think this is in episode 12. I don't think this is an episode 13 thing where this is happening.
Are we deciding this? Are we deciding on this being the end, or we're just discussing? We haven't decided on that yet.
I would say that maybe we could end, if we wanted to end on a sinister note, to end with Sauron reporting the existence of the elves to Melkor. Oh, okay. Like one of the last things that we'll hear, because the stars have been being kindled this entire time, right? One of the last things that we'll see during that sequence is Myron walking through the woods of Middle-earth and hearing scene.
I could also see if this I hate to call it a montage, but it's a montage. If this little montage of ours is the end of the episode, we end it. So we have we're cutting between Manwë and Varda, and Manwë is seeing this vision, and then we see Varda, and she's preparing to make the stars. She's setting up her workshop or whatever, and as Manwë's vision is coming to an end, we see Varda start to kindle the stars. And then we start cutting to Melkor, and Melkor's out on his worker balcony or whatever he has over there. I don't know. Yes, out on the veranda. And he goes and he looks up into the night sky and he sees the stars starting to be kindled. And he takes that as an omen against him, which should. And so he gets that omen. And, the Manwë's vision ends, and, Manwë's, okay, we're going to war. We have to do this. Varda's still kindling the stars. Melkor's, okay, well, they're gonna come and get me. And so he walks out and he walks to the other side of Autumno or whatever, and we see him. And this is where, as the sorrowful third theme, kind of hits its most sorrowfulness, he steps over the veranda or the porch or whatever, and we see the pits. We see the pits that he's been making over the past 2 episodes. And
Yeah.
we just see armies, just the floods of armies on the field. And that's when Myron comes up beside him and says, the elves have awoken. You know, he gives his sinister good or whatever, his Lord Palpatine good. You know, excellent, yes. Wipe them out. Then, you know, credits.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. Okay. So what do you think? What do you think that Elrond might be trying to say by telling this particular part of the story, if anything? Like, is there anything that he could be trying to teach our young Estelle through this tale?
Are we going to go through the whole Eonway thing in this episode as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, do we have okay, so we have a general outline. We
have a fairly good idea. This episode, we actually have a really good idea of what's gonna happen in it. There's some specifics that I want to work out, and there's one other thing I want to add to it. But I do. Everybody forgot about the frame. That's why I keep trying to lead us back to it. I really want to get that nailed down before we get too far away. Krita says, I can see a shot of Melkor's face upturned to the sky. It pans to show Myron in the doorway. The screen goes dark, and then a voice, the children have awakened. Pause, music, and credits.
One of those.
Yes. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. In this episode, at the beginning of this episode, we also have Tulkas and Orome fighting one of the beasts, right?
No, we're way past.
Okay. You mentioned it earlier, and I was like, "That's in this episode."
Episode 8. That was.
Okay. How does this episode start?
Well, this episode in the story in primordial Arda, as we like to say, it starts with Yavanna coming upon one of these beasts, and
that's the beast. Gotcha.
And putting it to sleep. So we are going to have some beastiness in this episode. But that's where we're opening up. There was some discussion of her talking to Orome, like Orome coming riding up.
Yeah, I actually really liked that conversation.
Yeah. So that's gonna be interesting. Because we want to set up that Orome's out looking for the children also.
Yeah.
And this will give us a good opportunity for us to set up who it is that Myron hears singing later on. The one other thing that I want to add that hasn't been brought up at all. So there's some discussion of the chain that Aule makes to bind Melkor with. And there was some discussion of Myron making a chain that Melkor uses to hold Eonway. So what I was thinking is, what if instead of us doing that, what if we see this conversation between Yavanna and Orome, and then we go back to Valinor, where Aule is at his forge making a chain, and Myron talks to him. Myron's like, "What are you doing? What are you making?" And when Aule tells him what it is and what it's for, because this particular chain, the reason for this chain is to be able to lock in an Ionor where they can't just disembody and take off.
Right.
All right. This chain is specifically for that. And so when that happens, this is the last straw. This is Myron's last straw here, and he steals one of the links, which is which would be really cool if it was like a big golden ring.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Or just ring in general. Yeah.
and he steals one of the links and takes it back to Melkor, and then Melkor uses it to restrain Eonwë while they have him locked up. And they release him from it when they kill him, or they probably wouldn't even need to. They kill him, and then his body dies. So that's it. His spirit's gone.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
I like it. It. And it gives us a little bit more meat to episode 12 because it's kind of bare. even if we pushing back the kindling of the stars into episode 12, it's still pretty bare.
Right. It's not exactly being hoisted by your own petard, but it's like you're hoisted by Aulë's petard.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And it gives Myron something specific to do, and it gives a defining moment that pushes him over the edge, because we really didn't have something specific where he was like, "That's it, I'm out."
Right. I'm going to tie back to what you just said in a second, but going back to the frame. I'm going to weave back to
the frame. Yes, let's do it.
So what I've been hearing a lot is in this episode, we're getting a lot of people having to not compromise, but they're having to make a lot of decisions that they wouldn't make if they had everything their own way.
Right.
We have Manwë obviously choosing to go to war, but we have Vanna in the whole beast thing, like the kind of her conversation with Orome, and the recognition that sometimes hunting these things may be a good idea. Yeah. We just had the episode with Aulë where he's probably Aule's forging the chain because he doesn't have the dwarves. That's what he was making the dwarves for. He was making the dwarves to stand against Melkor, and now he doesn't have the dwarves anymore, so he has to go to Plan B. And Plan B is let's just chain the guy up. I'd rather have my army. But if I can't have an army, I'll settle for a chain. Yeah. And then Myron comes in. Going back to what you were saying, Myron comes in, and if there's a conversation between a heated discussion between Aulë and Myron of Myron maybe tries to convince Aulë that this isn't Melkor's not our enemy. He's understood. Maybe we shouldn't be actively trying to fight him. Maybe we should be trying to understand him. And Aulë is just having none of it, and so Myron's not getting his way. Melkor obviously with the stars, and hey, we have to go to war. They're going to come find me, and they're not going to bow down. And so if the frame, if this is a lesson from Elrond, the recurring theme specifically in this episode